Common sense told us that when you put a big tax on something, the people will produce less of it. So we cut the people's tax rates, and the people produced more than ever before. The economy bloomed like a plant that had been cut back and could now grow quicker and stronger.
Welcome, all you purveyors of common sense. I'm the common sense conservative, where I tend to put a common sense take on hot political and social topics of the day. And today we are going to be talking about the truckers boycott New York, what Tim Poole has to say. If you want to go watch the full thing, you can go watch it over at the Timcast show. And we're just going to see what we can do with this. And I haven't watched this. I do know about the Truckers for Trump. So, but let's see what Tim has to say and what we can deduce from it in a common sense way.
New York really stepped in it this time. Following the $350 million fraud ruling against Trump, truckers have announced that they will be boycotting loads delivered to the city. Now, I don't know exactly how big that could get. Maybe it's 10 truckers, maybe it's more. But considering the political leanings of many in the trucking profession, seems likely that this will have some kind of impact on New York City. We all remember the Freedom Convoy, the Freedom Truckers in Canada. The government was so shocked by what they were doing, they started freezing bank accounts and stealing money. And then, of course, there's the Colorado truckers boycott, where a man was sentenced to 110 years in prison after his brakes failed. A bunch of people who drive trucks that were not going in that state. And then they were forced to reduce the sentence to 10 years. Now, I do want to talk about that case because it's pretty wild. But what we see here is that truckers are somewhat of an organized group. They lean pretty right, not completely. This may have a tremendous impact. But for those that aren't following exactly why this is happening, this has to do with Donald Trump's fraud ruling. And I'll give you the gist of that so you can understand. Donald Trump was accused of fraud by New York. They argued that he artificially inflated the value of his assets in order to secure better loans, more money. Yes, that's literally what all people do all the time, everywhere. It's not a crime. It's not fraud. It is normal. Seriously. Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary, I looked it up. I guess his net worth is the tune of $500 million. He's not quite a billionaire, but he's a very wealthy guy, says this is insane. You're going to have to prosecute. You're going to have to go after every single real estate developer everywhere. So it's not just that truckers are boycotting, but Kathy Hochul of New York is begging developers like, please, everything's fine. You have nothing to worry about. Why? Because anyone who works in real estate is now going, holy crap, we are all guilty of fraud, and they are going to strip and steal our assets. Good luck, New York. Now, of course.
And this is why Kevin O'Leary stated New York's the number one loser state. Like, seriously, think about this. Number one, my grandfather, before he passed away, he was a truck driver. Drove all over the country. You know, I remember him being gone for weeks at a time as he was going to San Diego or to Minnesota or short trips to Atlanta and the Southeast region. And yes, truckers are a very, matter of fact, I even drove trucks for about 3 years. Worked for my grandfather's company. And they are a very tight-knit, very organized group of individuals. There, you can go on any highway in America and you see truckers and they're talking to each other. They're letting them know, hey, 5 miles up the road, you got a bogey up on your right-hand side. Just make sure that you're running, at the right speed, and make sure you ain't got that rabbit underneath you. They talk all the time. And if they're trying to organize hey, we're not going to New York, this is wrong, and we're just not going to do. We're not going to deliver there. Here's something you don't know, and maybe some of you do know. Truckers deliver 90% of everything America buys. 90% of it. You can't get trains up and down the streets of New York and New Jersey. You can't get trains up and down the streets of Miami. You can't get trains up and down the streets of Los Angeles and San Francisco and Seattle. Name city anywhere, and you can't get trains there. Not up and down the streets, not to the individual businesses. Trucks do that. Truckers drive those there. So if they're saying, hey, bud, we ain't going to New York. We're done with it. We're over this. Fix your ruling, or we're not coming. And you're not going to get nothing. And then when you run out, you're going to watch your city burn. That's literally what they're doing. If they organize this in a way that the Canadian truckers organize or the Colorado truckers organize, this is big trouble for New York. I hate to put it. Common sense will tell you, if they don't deliver the stuff you need to survive, you're not going to survive. And when people start running out of food, when people start running out of water, when people start running out of new clothes and soap and diapers and baby formula and all this other stuff, anarchy is going to ensue. Without laws, the only thing left is anarchy. And when the laws are so distorted and so corrupted that they hunt down political opponents, not for doing anything wrong, but for doing everything right, they just don't like you. Make no mistake about it. This is why New York is the loser state. Kevin O'Leary is correct. Mr. Wonderful is correct. You're the number one loser state. And I feel bad for the people of New York. But the only way you can get these politicians to understand is, unfortunately, you have to hurt the people. And I don't agree with it. I'm just telling you how it is. This is the way these truckers are thinking. Like, hey, if you can do it to Donald Trump, you're going to do it to us. Because we actively support conservatism. We actively support America first. You think truckers want illegal immigrants to say, hey, I can drive a truck and I'll do it for, 12 cents on the mile compared to what you're paying this guy, $1.50 on the mile? Because that's how truckers get paid. They get paid by the mile. Every mile they turn. My grandfather used to have a little Hulu doll up on his dashboard. I said, Pop, what you got the little Hulu dancing girl up there? And he said, because if she ain't making it, or she ain't shaking it, I'm not making it. He said, so as long as I know she's shaking, that means these wheels are turning and I'm putting miles underneath this truck and I'm making some money. So let's see what else he has to say.
If you're a regime ally or puppet, you probably have nothing to worry about. But this is the way the country is shifting. That is,
Kathy Hochul.
If you're a regular old real estate developer, you're going to avoid New York. But if you're a Nazi, you're going to want to build in New York. And why do I say Nazi? Well, first, let's start with the gist of the claims against Donald Trump. Not only did they try to criminalize, or they're calling it a civil fraud thing, a standard business practice, Trump was not even given an opportunity to defend himself. That's correct. The judge in the case banged the gavel and said, summary judgment. I don't need to see anything. There does not need to be a trial. Trump is guilty.
You see? And that's the problem. And if a judge can just summarily, I can't say that word, speech impediment, by the way. But if he can just bang his gavel and say, summary judgment, I don't need to see no evidence, no nothing. You committed fraud. You don't think they can do that to you? let's say you built up a cash, you put all your money into building a small little bodega or something, and then this bodega takes off and everybody's loving the food and they're loving the coffee and they're loving the camaraderie and everything else, and you're making a money hand over fist and you paid back all your debt and you've done everything, but you have a picture of Donald Trump as president up on your wall, and they say, you know what, we don't like you, and somebody complains, and then Letitia James says, you know what, we're going to get this guy. And then you go before some judge, some Democrat political judge, and say, he just bangs the gavel. Guilty. Well, what'd I do? I paid back all the loans. But when you wanted to open that bodega, you put your house up as collateral, and your house, you said to the bank that you needed $500,000 to open this bodega, and your house was worth $500,000. But in reality, I think your house is actually only worth $75,000. So therefore, you defrauded that bank to get a bigger loan. It doesn't matter that you paid them back. Doesn't matter if you paid them back with interest. Doesn't matter that the bank is completely satisfied with the terms. It doesn't matter that the bank went out and evaluated your home and said, okay, yeah, it is worth $500,000. We actually think it's worth $600,000. We'll give you that. And you say, no. I only want the $500,000. I know I can pay that back. And if it goes belly up, I can sell the house for $600,000. That'll give me $100,000 over, and you're $500,000 back. Oh no. That don't matter. You're guilty because you got Donald Trump up in here. So clearly, you're a white right-wing conspiracy theorist, ultra MAGA, whatever. You're crazy. You're a lunatic. You're a sycophant. You're guilty. Let's determine how much you're guilty. Your house is worth how much? $600,000. $1 million fine. I can't pay that. I can't even fight that. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my business. I'm going to lose it all. And that's what these truckers are saying. If they can do it to Donald Trump, worth $3.2 billion, Kevin O'Leary, who's worth, a quarter of that at $500 million? Not even a billionaire yet, saying, I ain't going to New York. I ain't building there. Why would I risk everything for them to say, yeah, we don't really like your politics that you had back in 1977. Guilty. Fraud. But hey, I'm just giving you my common sense opinion. And I encourage all of you out there, keep common sense common. See what they're really doing. Read behind the media spins and see what's really going on. Once again, I'm the common sense conservative. And this, my friends, is just common sense.
Common sense told us that when you put a big tax on something, the people will produce less of it. So we cut the people's tax rates, and the people produced more than ever before. The economy bloomed like a plant that had been cut back and could now grow quicker and stronger.